Hey, so I'm back this week, and this week I'm talking about my pantry. What? I know. So I'm going to share 10 real food pantry staples that you absolutely have to have if you're going to cook at home. And that's really any meal. And you really, again, this is another hard one to narrow down to only 10. But these are definitely the top 10 that are used across the board in multiple ways all day long, every single day. And another thing too, great news, if you go to simplymindfulwellness.com and you head on over to the blog and you check out the post that's related to this, you can grab a full pantry item list and guide to help you check off and get started with your real food pantry. So let's just jump right in. Nothing more frustrating or aggravating when you're cooking a meal, you open the pantry or your fridge, you take a look, and the thing that you need is not there. It is so frustrating. No one wants to stop cooking and stop what they're doing and have to go to the grocery store right that second to finish the meal. So that's why it's so important to get these things stocked in your pantry. Across the board for so many things is olive oil. So we buy this in a larger bulk container, so that way it lasts a little bit longer and you save a little bit of money in cost per ounce. But we absolutely have to have this. And this oil is so important because it's super healthy for you. This has great healthy fats for your heart. It raises your good cholesterol, which is what you want, which fights against that bad and cleans it out of your system. So olive oil is the way to go. And again, buying in bulk is always better for most items because you really save in the long run, especially if it's a big staple in your pantry. Next step is pure vanilla extract. We use this in so many ways. We use it in our coffee creamer that we make ourselves. We use it a little bit in our energy bites, in our granola bars. So a few of our weekly treats have a teaspoon or so of vanilla extract. And another important thing here is you're getting pure vanilla extract. You don't want anything that's imitation because that is processed and has additives in it. So you're looking for pure vanilla extract. And if you want to and you want to get into it, you can actually make your own. I don't make my own. I do just purchase it from the store, but I make sure I'm always getting 100% pure vanilla extract. So the next item, which is pure maple syrup. This can be a quite costly item. You're not getting anything that's just syrup, you're getting 100% pure maple syrup here. And this is really important because other syrups are just high fructose corn syrup and other additives, and that's pretty much it. So you're really looking for that 100% pure maple syrup. The best thing here is find someone local to you that's doing this, especially in the Northeast. It's a great place to get great maple syrup, and you can get a much better price per ounce from someone selling it locally, and you're supporting a local farm. Maple syrup is one of the best sweeteners to use naturally as well because this breaks down so much better inside of your body and converts much more slowly and at a different level in terms of sugar in your body. So it doesn't quickly turn into fructose like other sweeteners or other sugars. So it's a great natural sweetener for you to use over a sugar. We use this a lot drizzled over yogurt or as part of an ingredient. We use a little bit in the coffee creamer as well, or an ingredient in terms of energy bites or different items like that. So this is a great sweetener to use to add to plain items with just a tiny drizzle. You never need more than just a tiny bit of maple syrup, which is so fantastic. Which leads us to our next sweetener, which is raw honey. This is another great item that you can grab locally, which is even better because the local environment and the bees in that environment that create that honey, it actually makes it a lot healthier for you. And you can get a much better price by buying the local honey this way as well. This is kind of our second sweetener when you want a little bit of a thicker consistency or stickiness to it, or it does taste a little bit different. So sometimes the boys here like to put that on if they have like a bowl of different mixed nuts like cashews, or they're adding it. Sometimes they'll swap out and they'll add a little tiny drizzle over the yogurt with the nuts or over the granola. So it's a nice little swap, and sometimes you need a different consistency in certain recipes. Real food recipes call for the honey over the maple syrup, and because of that difference, it is a nice swap or a nice change to have. Next up is whole wheat flour, and we absolutely cannot be without this in our house. We use this as thickeners in different soups and different meals that we make. It, of course, is the main ingredient in all the biscuits and the breads that we make here, which I make multiple times a week, different types of breads, and so we can't be without this here. So it's such an important ingredient in our house. And one thing that so this is whole wheat that I'm talking about, but another flour that we are beginning to use is einkorn flour, and this is more of an ancient flour that is actually being shown to be celiac and gluten sensitivity friendly. And so my husband has a little bit of a gluten sensitivity, so it's nice to try something else. And so I'm just starting to experiment with that, so I'll keep you posted. But I do know that it's a very common alternative. It is a little bit more costly than your whole wheat flour, quite a bit, but if you're using it for special treats, or maybe you're using it for that regular item because of your sensitivities, and really it's kind of one of the only other options other than processed flour, and you don't really want that either. I mean, you need to be gluten-free, so it's really an interesting thing. So you can check that out. It's called einkorn flour. Up our spices. We have a full spice rack, and we use different spices for different meals and different cuisines, obviously, but we really couldn't live without our Italian spices because we use them in almost everything. So our oregano, our basil, some salt, some pepper, some parsley, and we grow all of these during the growing season here, and then I save enough of them, more than enough every year, to dry, and we can go through a year and sometimes almost 2 years on the dried herbs that I've grown myself. So we also have a little bit of rosemary, a little bit of thyme, and then other things that we add as staples are dill and cumin and some chili powder and some other spices like that. We also have a little bit of cinnamon, nutmeg. So all these spices you definitely want to have on hand. And two of our favorites are garlic and onion powder. So these are in almost every meal that we have. Just be sure that you're not buying blends, you're buying individual herbs that you're blending yourself. Blends often have added things like MSG and other chemicals in them that you want to avoid. So just take a look at your ingredients, make sure you're buying a single individual item, and you can do your own blends at home in only a few minutes. Brown rice is our next one. This is part of many meals for myself during the day, and probably 50% of our meals during the week. This is one of the healthy carbs that we consume in our house, so we go through quite a bit of it. So it's important to have that on hand. Again, buying in bulk and storing in a container in your pantry is the best way to do it with brown rice. And as I've already talked about, I really couldn't go without active dry yeast either. And you need this for the breads and the biscuits and the other bakery items that you're doing that need a rise. So I store this in the fridge. I get a larger container of it, but you can always buy individual packs as well, use them, and then replace them and store them in your fridge. So you can make some breads and biscuits without them, but they're really a main ingredient in so many different baking items. And if you're really getting into making most of your own food and not buying anything that's already pre-made or packaged, then you really can't go without it. Nuts. We absolutely love all types and varieties of nuts. We mix and match, we add them to salads, we add them to meals. They're part of our snacks. Sometimes they're just eaten whole, sometimes with that little drizzle of that honey or the maple syrup. And they're such a healthy fat and healthy component of your day. So if you're not into them, and of course if you have an allergy, then they would need to be avoided. But if not, try different types. Find out what you like. Try them as snacks. Try them as, toppers onto a salad or morning breakfast or in your granola, and see what works for you. You really can't go wrong in terms of having and adding that healthy fat of that nut into your diet. Had to include is baking powder, and it was a little different, and it was hard for me to choose the last item in this list of 10, but baking powder is another essential in all the baked goods that I make, and because we're consuming these baked goods on a daily basis, I really couldn't go without it. The biggest thing in choosing a baking powder is making sure you're choosing one that is aluminum free. Yes, aluminum. So take a look at the ingredients of your baking powder when you're going to purchase, and choose the best one that fits for you in your budget and also that is aluminum. So one last thing that I wanted to talk about here, and I've mentioned it a couple times on and off, is your budget. And when you're looking at these things and you're looking at replacing a pantry or replacing items in the pantry, of course, there are several ways you can do that. You can go all in and just clean it out and replace anything that needs replacing with your real food item or the items that I've mentioned. What is most essential, or what are you using every single day that you really need? And start there. Some of those spices that I listed, you're like, I don't really use that much chili powder. I'm not really into that style of food, or like cumin, and like, I don't really know if I need that. Then don't. You skip those for a while and you build up on the things you know you have. Love Italian spices, go for it there instead. The same thing with the baking items. If you're like, I'm not ready to go full on baking all my own bread and biscuits and my items. So, you can get a little bit of flour and you keep that in there and you work up to it. So you don't have to do it all at once. You can work up to it. And just to give you an idea of what we spend, and this includes toiletries, like things like toilet paper. We don't use a lot of paper towels because we use a lot of reusable towels at home, but we get a couple rolls a month. But paper towels, toilet paper, and tissues. So thinking about those things, and I buy those in bulk, so I spend a little bit more up front to make them last longer. So each week includes about $150 to $200 in groceries. And this includes primarily organic, and it includes all real food items. We aren't really purchasing anything that's processed anymore unless something sneaks by me into the cart, but I'm pretty good about it. And so we are primarily and heavily fruits and veggies, in terms of what's in our cart. More plant-based, nuts and beans. We do get a few meats for each week. About 50% of the week probably has a meat dinner, but other than that, we try to keep it more plant-based. But we are buying, primarily organic, not always grass-fed, but organic, pastured, or natural, and anything that we can get also that's, above and beyond that's affordable to us, we can. And this is for a family of 3. So we have an 8-year-old boy and then the 2 adults here. And so that's what we're in the past, we have definitely spent more than that on not as great food and not as good quality, the food in the past, like through our real food transition. So I don't feel that it's an extremely expensive amount, and it doesn't really matter what what you're looking at or what you're spending. Groceries are just a significant expense in the house. And budgeting is about understanding your priorities and putting what you need first and really going for it. So you have to keep that in mind when you're starting with this. It may seem, like I don't have enough equipment, I don't have everything in the pantry, I don't have the stuff in the fridge that I need, this is going to cost so much, but you're replacing something else. So this may cost a little bit more, but what's most important to you? And that's something that you have to keep in mind as you're starting to stock a pantry or replace items. Your goal is about your health and your family's health and wellness. It's about living a better, longer life and feeling good every day and having energy and losing weight and getting control of your body and your disease you may have, like lupus for myself. So at the end of the day, it may seem daunting, it may seem difficult, and you may have to shift some things around and change some things, but what's your priority? And that's something to keep in mind when you're going to go shopping and you're going to budget and you're starting to look at items. Why are you doing this? And why are you making that change? And don't let go of that for that price tag. You can make it work. If you want it bad enough, you can always make it work. So don't forget, you can grab your guide on my website, simplymindfulwellness.com, go over to the blog, and you can get my full pantry checklist, and you can see everything that I think you need for a real foods pantry. And remember, you can take it step by step, replace what's most important first, and continue on from there. If you like this video, please click like below and share your top 10 pantry favorites as well. Please share this video with your friends and family if you think they would enjoy it. I'll see you next week.